fan del wrestling, ma soprattutto fan di The Shield of Sports. Io sono Bruno Giuliani e anche oggi vi ricordo che questo podcast è disponibile in formato video su YouTube con le grafiche e le statistiche realizzate dal nostro Leonardo Ungherini ed è in formato audio disponibile su Spreaker, Spotify, Google, Apple Podcast e TuneIn. And as always, if you didn't understand anything of what I just said, my name is Bruno Giuliani, and I remind you that this podcast is available on a video format on YouTube with graphics made by Leonardo Ungherini and audio format on Spreaker, Spotify, Google, Apple Podcast, and TuneIn. Today, I wanted to do something different from usual, and I invited one of the best referees in Europe, Foxy.
Hello there, how are you?
So, I obviously know you by OTT,
Yes.
but I didn't really have a chance to talk to you for a long time, so this would be, for me, like the first proper chat with you. And I want to ask you, the first question is, when did you started the referee career, if we can say so? Like, how did it start?
So actually, like I started 16 years ago. I started as a wrestler because I wanted to be a wrestler, but I did that for about 5-6 years, and then around 2010, that's when I started becoming a referee full time. And I've been going as a referee ever since. So it's a long time.
Yeah, it's now 12 years this year, right?
Yes.
That's great. So I know you're like you referee the entire time there's a show. You're always out there. You do every match basically, especially in OTT ones. Like how is it to work so much? Because you're out there with us. Like you have to perform too. I know it's not a really it's not that easy.
No, it's not an easy job. Otherwise, everyone would be doing it. But no, I like it. I have a lot of fun doing it. I enjoy doing it, and that's the main reason why I still do it. It's again, I get to work with so many like very, very talented people, and it kind of forces me to step up my game every time I do a show.
Yeah.
Now, it just happens that I'm the only one here in the country that can do that's a referee. So
that's why you're doing referee courses then, just to not be the only one. So, what made you do the referee at after those 6 years of wrestling? It was like an opportunity rise up, or was you like?
So that came about because while I was wrestling, I was wrestling under a mask.
Okay.
And normally, like, that means you pull double duty. So I would probably wrestle in the first half under a mask, and then the second half I would start the referee.
Oh.
Or vice versa. Like I would ref the first half and wrestle in the second half. So that's how it started. And I found I actually took to refereeing really well because of my experience as a wrestler. So I kind of like jumped the queue in terms of instead of starting from the very beginning, I already knew how spots worked. I knew how a match is called. I knew how people go about in when they hit their big moves. Like this is where not to be or where to be. And I just had fun being in there in the ring because it was the best way to learn by being on the job basically.
So you were like an insider turned ref. One question that comes to my mind, who taught you to do it? Did you learn by yourself?
Yes.
Okay.
Like no, that's the short answer. But like the long answer is that unfortunately, like in Ireland, like because wrestling is still relatively new to the country, it's only about maybe 16, maybe 20 years in the country, but there hasn't been a lot of referees. Like it isn't like now where you can throw a stone and you can find someone that you can learn from who is far better than yourself. But for in terms of referees, they're non-existent. Like any of the previous referees have either packed in, or they're probably not in the country, or they don't want nothing to do with wrestling. So it's very hard to learn when there's no one there to learn from.
Like one of those old kung fu movies where there's the master who retired. You have to search him around.
Yeah.
Also, like since you started like 10 years ago, like now I think it's really much easier, even if someone wants to do the referee, because they can like attend Zoom classes, I don't know, like with you or with referees all over the planet, and
Yeah.
seminars and
No,
stuff.
it's absolutely fantastic, especially with the advances in technology as well, and social media. It's made it so much easier to be able to network and communicate with different people from around the world. I mean, I've been fortunate enough to network with people from different countries of the world and learn from them. Because like if you're gonna learn from someone that's better than you. And even if you think you're good, there's always someone that is like me personally, I don't consider myself the best, because if I was the best, I'd be everywhere. But I'm still in Ireland. So I'm the best in Ireland, but that's not where I want to be. My aspirations are higher for that. Like I want to be the best in Europe, the best in the world. Like that's the way it is. So the only way I
Have you
can do
been
that is by
called by
learning from everyone
someone?
else.
Have you been called by someone else around, like in Europe, outside Ireland? Has it already?
I have done 2 shows in England, and that's been it. Whereas we've been fortunate enough for the likes of OTT, we've been fortunate enough to get the likes of a Chris Sharp, who is with WD, NXT, and his wealth of knowledge has been invaluable. I mean, he picked up on little things that I was doing and just said, here, if you did this, change this. Like he was giving me full proper critique, and which is needed. It's what I want. Because if it's a wrestler, it's not the same like kind of critique. Like more often than not, like the critique from a wrestler would be like, yeah, I didn't notice yet, or no, you were good. But that's all you get. Whereas if you get a referee that's critiquing another referee, it's like, yeah, you need to work on your timing. Your position was a bit off for this. When you're doing this, move that way instead. When they're in this position, get in there. Like they really go in depth when it's the same when you're a wrestler critiquing other wrestlers. You really get into the detail about like, okay, why am I not progressing, or why am I like missing out on something? What do I have to do?
Yeah, I think maybe it's more difficult for referees than wrestlers, because like there's so many wrestlers and so little referees that even like finding someone who is like better than you, or just as like just wants to help you, it's way more difficult, I think.
Yes, it can be. I just got very lucky that when we had the likes of a Chris Sharp, he was very, very given and wanted to help, because he does like to come over here, and he enjoys being in Ireland with the people that are here, because they treat him well, and he wants to return that, which is fantastic.
Great. So, what skills do you think are necessary to like start being a referee? Because as we said, it's not as easy as it looks.
Yeah, it's not as easy. Like, it's a very different ball game compared to learning how to wrestle and be a good wrestler. For a referee, obviously, now it helps. I normally people do it the opposite way. They become a referee in order to become a wrestler, but I did it the opposite. I was a wrestler before I was a referee.
Yeah.
So, to me, I've found that it has benefited me so much from having that experience as a wrestler. So I know how spots, as I said earlier, how spots work, how people move, where, like, what would I not like to see from a referee if I was wrestling?
Yeah.
And I try to go from there. Now, it's obviously there's a lot more to it, like, especially in regards to behind the scenes. Like, if you're expected to be so essentially you're the first response. So if something goes wrong, you have to get in there and make a quick decision about whether or not they can continue, or you have to call the match. And that is vital on big time shows, even small time shows, because you could get two trainees that maybe, like, in their haste, like, because sometimes they tend to rush. It's someone gets a bad knock on the head, so therefore, like, they forget their spot, or who knows, like, they could have hurt themselves. So it's up to the referee to actually get in there, check on them, make sure they're okay, and if not, call the match, so that way they can be seen to in a speedy and safe way.
But did you have any, like, health, how do you say, training for being a referee, like sports health training or something?
No, like, my training really happened on shows. I would referee. So back a good few years ago, there was a promotion in Ireland called wrestling.ie, and basically they were a traveling roadshow. So all throughout the year, they would travel the country, putting on shows in different parts of the country, and normally it would be a small enough crew, but because you're working so regularly, like every single week you're going to a different town, different venue, different crowd. So, and you're working with either the same crew or a variation of that crew. So I did that for 3 years solid, where I would just work with the same people and learn on the job, is like what not to do and how to get better. So
were you doing shows every day, or was it like once a week?
No, it was like once or twice a week. Because unfortunately in Ireland we don't have the luxury of multiple shows a week, as in some countries do. So if we did once or twice in the same week, we were doing really well. No, but like, to me, that was a fantastic learning experience, because I had to adapt. Not only did I have to improve my skills, learned how a crowd works. I learned what they kind of like and what they don't like. I learned how to gauge a crowd. So to the point where I was able to help the boys if they were doing matches. It's like, don't do this spot, it's not getting a response. Do these kind of spots. They seem to be liking this, and it's like things like that has helped to the point where now when I do shows that for promotions that are mostly trainees, it's a great way to help them along the way, because they're going to be so nervous whatsoever, like, nervous enough as it is doing a match, but then doing your first live show in front of a crowd, that's very, like, it's scary. So
I know what it feels like.
like to do that, and then especially, like, you're gonna forget things. So it's very handy to have an experienced person in there to kind of lead you along. Or if you forget your spot, he's going to find out what the spot is, or call a new spot to you to cover up. So, and the crowd will be none the wiser because of it.
So to answer like the question before about the skills, like you're suggesting if someone wants to start being a referee to also training wrestling, do wrestling training to figure out that spots work and everything works.
Yes, it benefits to have at least the basic knowledge of wrestling, because you have to learn how to fall, protect yourself. You also have to learn how the spots work and how people go about calling their matches. So by doing that, it makes it easier for you to go up and say, okay, what's needed? What's the finish? Any particular spots? Okay, do you need a big slow two? Do you need a like fast count? What? You start learning like little things to actually add to it. You start adding to the match rather than, okay, you just need me for the finish. So, previous wrestling experience is a big help.
I'm really I'm amazed by the fact that you like learned all by yourself. That's really, really cool. Like doing the experience right on the field is like being thrown into the sharks, like they say, right?
Pretty much. Like I thought that I always do say that it's like it is trial by fire. Like you're chucked in there and expected to try and get by, but it just so happened, like, again, I was working with a great crew. They wanted to see me do well as also, and most of them I still work with even to this day. It's like, so that's like the majority you'll see in OTT, or you'll see in a Fight Factory, or you'll see all around Ireland. So I've worked with the majority of the talent here in Ireland, and it's been a lot of fun.
So to close the first part of the podcast, since you went to like trial and error, what is the worst thing that happened to you in the ring? Like the worst mistake you remember doing?
So a couple of worst mistakes is not picking up on someone getting hurt. This was early into it. Like someone had gotten hurt, they had a bad knock, or he had dislocated his shoulder. And I didn't notice. None of us noticed, but also he didn't say it until after the fact. So it was annoying to me because I didn't pick up on it. But also some of the worst mistakes is always like the simplest things. Like you'll probably forget, like, oh, this is the actual finish, like, and you go for a false two, like, so you'll pull your hand and not count the three. So there's that little pause, and everyone's wondering what's going on. So, like, it still happens every now and then. Like, no matter how many times you do it, like, it'll creep up on you every now and then.
We're human.
Yes,
but
exactly.
I think that with some backup, maybe not refereeing every match on the show, maybe those mistakes just go away.
It could, but like, again, everyone has like, no one can be like top of the line every single show, every single match. Like, you're bound to have like a few slip ups, and believe me, I've had a fair few, and I probably still will have a few more. So
we're going on a little break, and we'll be back.
Segui lo sport più di ogni altra cosa. Ti piace parlare subito di quello che vedi. La scrittura è la tua più grande passione. E allora noi facciamo proprio al caso tuo. Il gruppo The Shield of Sports ha riaperto le candidature per le posizioni newser, social, video e podcast. Come fare per collaborare con noi? Ma è molto semplice. Mandaci una mail all'indirizzo info@theshieldofwrestling.com oppure info@theshieldofsports.news. Raccontaci chi sei, che cosa fai, perché vorresti collaborare con noi. Noi leggeremo la tua mail, ti risponderemo subito e chissà che anche te entrerai a far parte del nostro fantastico mondo sportivo. Ma soprattutto ricorda, we are the Shield of Sports.
It was fun. It was a fun chat. It's a fun chat. I never had the opportunity to talk with the refs so much, so that's interesting to me.
It's because you're getting a different perspective. That's why.
Yeah. That was the whole point of having you here, like having a different perspective. Because we're always interviewing wrestlers, and they end up saying almost the same thing. So it would be. So I'm going to start again.
Sure.
And we are back with the referee Foxy. So, as you said before, you've worked with some incredible talents from all over the world. What is one of the match you took part that you liked the most? Like, what is the match you will always carry in your heart?
So surprisingly, like my favorite match ever is now it's more because it's sentimental to me because of who it was. So my favorite match was Terry Thatcher versus Scotty Davis on Contenders for the No Limits Championship.
Okay.
So this match was really important to me because it was the first time that Terry Thatcher had won a championship, and to me that was a big deal because I've known Terry for years. He's family, and it was just great to see after all those years like of grinding, like wrestling around the country, finally be acknowledged. You are good enough to be our champion. So
that's great.
Very, very important.
It's also great that I know you've been refereeing like Ospreay, Walter, and all these like super talents, but this story is particular, like because you know him, because it's your mate, you've seen him grow and everything, so it's really, really awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Also, like because you've seen him grow, but you've seen a lot of talent like grow here in Ireland.
Like that's one. It's one of the parts of the job that I actually really, really like because I get to see the journey that people take. So from their very first, like either their training sessions or their first matches, all the way to up to Jenny Mac, like being signed by Ring of Honor, being signed by WWE, being signed by like say AEW or New Japan. It's amazing to see the journey of some of these people, and it just shows like how talented the people of Ireland can be. But not just Ireland, like people from around the world, like how talented how so like there's people that have talent to burn, and it's scary. Like I'm sure like you've seen a few people that you're just wondering how have they not been signed, or I'm delighted they got signed because they're that good. So it's a great thing to see. It's one of the perks I find of the job.
Who is someone that impressed you the most, and not like trying to do list of top tier list or something, but just someone was like, yeah, this guy's so much talented.
Are you talking about like for here in Ireland or just in general for worldwide?
In general.
Okay, in general. So for in general, like worldwide, out of like talents that we've had that we've been lucky enough to have, so the likes of Shane Strickland has charisma out the door, unbelievable ability in the ring, but great charisma. Like, so much so he got signed with WWE, and recently, like, they let him go, but my God, is he gonna make a killing here on the Indies again? Because, like, people that were a fan of him have still watched him in WWE and seen the stuff that he was doing there, and especially in the later part with Hit Row, what he was doing there. People can't wait to see what he'd do on the Indies with that, not under the WWE umbrella. Like, that's gonna be like something to see. Or the likes of so we've had the likes of Ospreay come over, who's just his progression from his first appearance in OTT to what he is now is just, it's basically night and day. Like, he went from being basically a skinny high flyer to IWGP like world champion, like top billing, like level talent there, like, and he worked for it, like it's like, obviously, like, now we have the likes of Walter, who's unbelievably impressive big man, like one of the most impressive, if not like him and Keith Lee would be like top level, like super heavyweight kind of talents. And they're not, no one is the same. Like, they bring their own unique like traits to the table that may give you no choice but to watch them. Like worldwide, like, there's been so many that we've worked with. I've had fun with a lot of people. I've felt very fortunate to be one of the lucky few to referee which was madness, like, to think about that.
But have you ever had problems with talent who, like, from Japan or Mexico that maybe doesn't even speak English? Because some of them doesn't.
Yes, I actually have. And they're from Japan, and they decided to pull a rib. Now,
okay,
a rib is handy, like, if people are in on the joke, but no one was in on the joke.
I've lost you
during and after.
I've lost you for a second there.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yeah. It was just my
so
problem, sorry.
They decided to pull a rib on me where before, during, and after said match, they were talking Japanese to me when they have full English.
Oh.
Yeah, which makes trying to find out information about what's going on in the match very, very difficult.
Not a great
especially when yeah, like, it was funny when I think of it now, but at the same time, it's a bit unprofessional, especially to not only like do that, but also like not take off someone's mask that it wasn't even planned to do. So it's like, for anyone that does watch OTT, like, they'll kind of gather who I'm talking about, but like, I'd rather not say names for that one. But I've had people complain because they were told to go a certain time, or to take it home, and they didn't. And yeah, like, they tend to forget, like, that is my job. My job is to keep time, and their job is to go on the time that they're told. So it's one of the things I don't get. But they're the kind of problems that I do get. Apart from that, there's been no. It's just really like making sure that if people get hurt, getting them out of there as quick and safe as possible. That's really it.
You talked about I lost the word. You talk about the time and keeping the time for wrestlers, like, and there's so many people that watch wrestling and they don't really know what a referee does and how many things a referee does. So This question is a bit strange. It's like, what is the most common misconceptions about referees? Like, what do people get wrong the most about referees?
That referees are there to count to 3
Okay.
and nothing else. Like a referee, so basically a referee's job is to be the extra person there to sell a match for the crowd. So a lot of the time, a crowd during a match will probably watch the referee to see how he's reacting, and if he's not reacting to what is going on in the ring, they don't believe it then. But if they look at a referee and he is reacting as if someone had been killed with, say, a hurricanrana, people get invested then, because they kind of jump and say, oh, if he's reacting, then it must have been bad. So it adds to it. Or
almost like a subconscious thing to do, because you're there. Like, no one is actually watching you, but they're watching you because you're there.
Yes, I'm there, but I'm not. My job is to try and be invisible. Like all their focus should be on the actual participants in the match, but my job is also to make sure that they're safe, that the match goes relatively on time, and that if I can add to the match in any way, like I'm willing to do anything that will benefit not only the show but like the match itself. So if it requires me being bumped around or making a fool out of myself, I don't mind. It adds to it. Like, wrestling is a variety show. It's not all like serious like wrestling. You have to have the comedy, and you have to have the drama or the wackiness that is like wrestling. So like you have timekeeping, selling, positioning. It's just also producing and being able to call like a wrestler as well. So like, if they're lost, like you need to be able to call stuff to them, and work with them.
Also remembering what they planned. It's also something.
Yes. Yeah. A good memory, or not so much a good memory, but like just handy little tricks to remember stuff. That's how you do it.
So before we end the podcast, I want to ask you if you have some advice for someone who wants to start being a referee.
So for anyone that's starting, basically get a basic knowledge of wrestling, how to fall, how spots work. So this will be in your basic wrestling skills. Get comfortable being in a ring, but also understand that mistakes are going to happen. Try not to dwell on them, because it's one of those weird things, because it's trait from wrestlers, but it does actually bleed through to people of other roles on the show, where it dwells on you. You keep thinking about it and just critique. You're your own worst critic. But having a basic knowledge of wrestling, how to do stuff, a bit of common sense, but a little bit of don't be afraid to step out of your comfort zone for the sake of it. It is a lot of fun, and it does get easier to do, and therefore, like, when it gets easier to do, you become more comfortable, and in turn it makes it more fun for everyone, because if they see you having a good time, then they're having a good time. So and learn anywhere you can, like anywhere and everywhere. You can learn from good shows, you can learn from bad shows, you'll always learn from working with different people every show. So try and work as often as you can, and that'd be really it that I could say.
Some great advice. So it was an amazing chat. It was really an interesting point of view, this one of the referees. which I'm not always on this show, so it was really great.
Yay.
And with these words of advice, I want to thank you for being with us. And I want to remind to all our fans that we are the Shield of Wrestling.